thank you so much for joining us today. It's so wonderful to see such a full room here. My name is Stacy Brennan. I'm the Curator of Education for Lehigh University Art Galleries. It's an honor to welcome you to Day 2 of Radical Love, presented by the Marcon Institute. I want to thank our partners for making this possible, including the Marcon Institute, led by Dr. Helena Oakes, the Notation Series presented by Lehigh's Creative Writing Program in the English Department, and led by Dr. Stephanie Watts and Dr. Bob Watts, who are here, and our community partners at Basement Poetry, Deirdre Van Walters and Chloe Cole Wilson, and as well as Guillermo Lopez, founder of Intersect Alliance, and the Guillermo Lopez DE&I Institute. I also want to thank Michael Wall here for the beautiful music offered here today. I hope you will join Michael for an evening of classical music at the Ice House here in Bethlehem on March 24th at 7 p.m. I'd also like to thank Afiwa Fangalo, class of 23, for sharing her beautiful artwork with us in the Lehigh Galleries. I hope you'll join her throughout the event and after the readings for a collaborative blackout poetry exercise that we will all add to together. And lastly, a huge thank you to all of our readers for making space and time to share with us today. What a beautiful way for all of us to come together, surrounded by music, visual art, and written and spoken word to celebrate the concept of radical love, the purest, most essential ingredient to support ourselves and each other and to grow a strong and more resilient community. This theme ties in nicely with a current exhibition on view across Lehigh's campus and the South Bethlehem Greenway, called What Matters Most. Over the past year, 100 students, faculty, staff, and community members were asked to answer the question, what matters most to them, and to choose a theme or issue that stood out to them. The contributors were asked to discuss these issues and then select a work of art from Lehigh's collection that helps us think more deeply about them. These conversations and works of art help us envision new possibilities for a community or a place, a new future, a new way of overcoming a challenge, or approaching problem solving. Our readers today selected a work from the exhibition or one that resonated with them, which will be displayed on the screen. We invite you to view the works in person by visiting the exhibition across 5 of our galleries on campus, as well as the South Bethlehem Greenway. You can scan the QR codes to listen to the stakeholders and organizations talk about why they chose this work of art, and to learn really what makes our community so special. Be sure to attend our free programs and events and to take one of our free sketchbooks with you today, which are upstairs. So it is now my pleasure to kick off the event and turn the mic over to Dr. Helena Oakes, Director of the Marcon Institute.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to make my comments brief because I am not an artist, but I am thrilled to be here, and I can't wait to hear from artists today. And I wasn't going to miss an opportunity to talk up and celebrate and praise one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Stephanopoulos Watts. Yes, let's do that. Yes. She's going to hate this, but no, I'm not going to stop. Thank you all for coming on a Sunday to engage in radical acts of love through art with us. We hope that this session will inspire resistance through art, inspire resistance to white supremacy, restore hope and trust, and fill you with love and inspiration. Poetry is not a luxury. Yes, let me say that again. Poetry is not a luxury. Let me get some snaps. Thank you. Poetry is not a luxury. Poetry is the embodiment of love. It is an artistic expression that connects us to the divine with timeless grace. Making and appreciating art are crucial acts of love and resistance. Radical love requires art. but you do not have to be an artist to resist oppression. I'm thrilled to open this incredible event by introducing the heart and soul of this institution, Dr. Stephanopoulos Watts. I'm sorry, I know she's getting very uncomfortable, but Dr. Watts is the winner of the Ernest J. Gaines Award for Literary Excellence in her debut story collection, We Are Only Taking What We Need, named one of 2013's Best Summer Reads by O Magazine. Her short fiction has been included in 2 volumes of the Best New Series from Best New Series from the South anthology, and honored with a Pushcart Prize. Stephanie's essay, I Love the Great Gatsby, Even If He Doesn't Love Me Back, published on LitHub, highlights the theme of her first novel, No One Is Coming to Save Us. Perhaps this is a novel that I read and reread over again. And I'm a social scientist. Social scientists were not taught to write creatively. It makes you unmotivated for writing, by the way. So whenever I need motivation, that's the book that I read, and I hope you will too. It will be the best use of your time. Those of us who know Dr. Stephanie know that she curated the anti-racist community we have at Lehigh. She has had a lot of allies, and she has led some of the most creative and courageous student artists toward success in a world that exploits but does not appreciate art enough. Not enough more than the profits produced. She has been responsible for centering the arts at Lehigh, and I want to celebrate her today. We're here today so that we can inspire allyship, motivate allies to become accomplices, and give accomplices the strength to conspire with us in anti-racist action. Listen. AI can do 80% of the work we currently do, and it is past time for us to be thinking about the value of humanity. We need to reimagine what we value, how we spend our time, and how to care for each other. Today is an incredible opportunity to learn from the folks who know, who have led through lived experience, who have wisdom. And let's spend this time today uplifting the artists the way they constantly uplift us. Dr. Watts. I'm gonna pay for that.
Thank you so much, Alona. Alona has been, from just about the day that she got here, one of the loves of my life. So I'm really grateful for your friendship, and I'm seriously grateful for your vision. Look at this. This is beautiful. To have all of you here, people from Lehigh, people from the community, to be together, and this is your vision, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you so much. And Stacy Brennan, who is awesome. Working with you has been one of the highlights of my time here, so thank you so much. I just want to say a couple of things, just about bell hooks and about the kind of reason that the conference is called Radical Love. It is through Dr. Oak's vision, but bell hooks was a very prolific writer. She had 40 books. She was known all over the world, and she was an activist with a philosophy about inclusion. One of the things that she said, I just want to say this very quickly because I want to get to the readers. She said, quote, "Dominator culture has tried to keep us all afraid, to make us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity. Moving through that fear, finding out what connects us, and reveling in our differences." I love the way what connects us, and also appreciating our differences. This is the process that brings us closer, that gives us a world of shared values, of meaningful community. Her prescription for this meaningful community and the way to get over this fear is, of course, radical love. She said, the moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. Our reading today is about celebrating those stories that we will find fellow feeling with, those stories that are very different from the stories of our own lives. But through those experiences and through the act of sharing those stories, we are creating love and community. So first we'll have the Lehigh writers. First of all, we will have Michael Wall play a selection for us, which we're thrilled to have you here, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us today. And he'll play a selection for us. After Michael's selection, the readers will be Maya Apolinario, Lauren Gilmore, Joe Yeager, Jim McKay James, Cameron Wheeler, and followed by the Basement Poets. So please give a warm welcome to everyone here, and thank you so much for being here. This is a really thrilling event.
Okay, well, I was trying to choose a piece, but I was told I was asked to play one piece to begin this program. I'm really happy to be. I'm going to play, it's called Recuerdos de la Alhambra, or Memories of the Alhambra, which is a very famous palace and fortress in Spain, sort of the exemplar of Islamic art. And it's really beautiful, and it was designed by the most prominent poets of the time. They called everybody, I mean, they had to get a poet to start with. I mean, they were the ones that, they're the ones that did the architecture, or at least decided on all the designs of the Alhambra was the poets. That's what I read anyway when I was looking at it. So I think it's a beautiful monument to art, is really what it is. It's a very hard piece to play, so I'm getting a little bit nervous. So I hope I'm taking a risk here.
hear me like this, okay, or should I? Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Amaya Apollinario. I'm one of the people in the creative writing department at Lehigh. I usually write science fiction stories, and so what I'm going to read for you today is a story about two childhood friends who end up going to an out-of-state college together. And spoiler alert, they live in a world where at random moments at any time you could be chosen to be killed to make more room for other people because of overpopulation and problems with the world. Okay. Riley couldn't breathe. It was late, almost 4 a.m., and she was high on that late night sort of joy that bubbles up after sleep is pushed off long enough. The party was bustling despite going on for a few hours. It wasn't Riley's typical gig. She preferred the bass-boosted, ear-ringing frats to house parties. But Serena wasn't much of a partier, so she compromised. Riley and Serena were laughing so hard they couldn't get a breath in, sprawled out on the ground in front of one of the sagging green couches in the living room. The kind of furniture passed down so long the scent of alcohol and weed is stitched into the cushions. Beside them was a small coffee table with two near-empty boxes of wine sat tipped over and lopsided. From Riley's position, she could see straight through the dining room, whose table was being used for beer pong, and into the kitchen where a boy and girl were huddled close. It was hard to tell if they were making out or sobbing. She didn't want to know. This late at night, this warm with the drumming haze and alcohol sitting deep in her stomach, Riley could almost forget. Almost. Serena slapped Riley's thigh. She still couldn't stop laughing. She was using Riley's stomach as a pillow, and each laugh bounced her up and down, which only made Riley laugh more. Serena, she said, the name slurred. Do you remember that time in middle school when we tricked the class into thinking I was a wizard? You mean the time you roped me into lending me my choir robes so you could tell everyone you got accepted into Hogwarts? Can't say I do. Riley giggled into her hand. My moms were so pissed. I even stole my grandpa's glasses and poked the lenses out. It wasn't believable at all. Serena laughed. You still managed to convince Sally Ruthers with it. You're lucky I had just learned cursive. I wanted to show off so bad I didn't even think to ask why you wanted a fake acceptance letter. I was so gullible back then. You still are. They cackled. Riley grasped at the tight pain in her side, basking in the feeling. God, she'd miss days like this. As if they both had the same thought, their laughter pitted out. Serena took Riley's hand, thumb stroking along the back. What made you think of that? She asked. Riley shrugged. I don't know. I've been thinking about the past a lot lately. I wonder where Sally is now. She moved to Rahway last year. The two friends grew silent. Rahway was a town close to the city. Riley and Serena used to stay there with her grandparents during winter break, going to the local Christmas festival together when Serena's parents were too busy working or, more likely, looking for jobs. It was a small affair, but Riley loved any chance to escape the walls of her home. Sally probably moved there for the same reason, searching for work or a change of pace. Riley would never know. She tilted her head back, and her eyes landed on the boy and girl in the kitchen. He had an arm wrapped around her, definitely sobbing then. Her whole body shook with the movement, and her lips were a blur as she uttered an explanation, or a prayer. What do you want to do after all of this? Serena asked, breaking the tense silence. I don't want to talk about it. Why not? I'll answer first if you want. After we graduate, I want to move to the country and quit it, Serena. Seriously. I'm just trying to get your mind off of things. Sue me. We can talk about anything else, not that. Riley pulled her hand out of Serena's grasp, wiping her sweaty palm on the carpet. You've been dragging me to parties ever since the announcement. It's already been 3 days, but you haven't said one thing about what's happening. Serena moved to sit up, but Riley pressed a finger to her forehead to keep her down. I said I don't want to talk about it. There's nothing we can do to change things, so let it go. Riley took a stray cup off the table and poured in the last drops of a box of wine. Serena always did this. She was the good influence to Riley's bad, picking up the slack when Riley messed up or got in trouble. She had a way of carrying herself that made you want to follow her. Eyes bright like midday and smile bursting, with the good manners and communication skills that came with a steady home life. Her schedule was always packed with studying, classes, and club meetings. They couldn't be more different. For Serena, every day went like this. Do just enough work to get by, skip class to nap, drown everything out with too loud music and too much booze and too little sleep until the next day peeks through the trash bags taped over the windows of whatever frat house you were in. Maybe find the time to wash the alk stains out of your clothes if you were lucky. Find yourself sleeping in another person's dorm bed if you were really lucky. Riley's luck ran out 3 days ago. The boy in the kitchen tried to shush the girl's cries. Riley downed her drink. Serena frowned at her, but Riley waved her off. Don't give me that look. What look? That look like you're disappointed in me but won't say it. I'm not disappointed in you, I just want to talk. Make some sense of all this. Riley stood, pushing Serena's head out of her lap. Talking never did anyone good. She needed action, not words. She wasn't like Serena, who always knew what to say and how to move. All I want is to have a good time and forget. Can't I spend one day of my life not worrying about anything? Riley, this is more than a final you don't want to study for. You don't think I know that? Why are you so obsessed with a future that isn't going to happen? You've always been like this. Miss Goody Two-Shoes who always gets the good grades and worries about what everyone else wants instead of doing anything for herself. Well, guess what? We're in the same position now, aren't we? Riley regretted her words the moment she said them. She knew this was a sore spot for Serena. Why couldn't she ever keep her mouth shut? Whatever, Serena muttered, standing. At least I tried to make something of myself, despite everything. Why do I even bother with you? Any response from Riley was cut off when the TV blinked away from the playlist blasting Britney Spears. The party went silent with it. A black screen appeared, and a sharp tone rang throughout the room, ticking like a bomb. Serena and Riley were glued to the floor, frozen. The pleasant buzz in their systems turned heavy, nauseous. Tick, 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 tick. This is an announcement for your area. In 10 minutes, your gift to humanity has been scheduled for... Someone turn that shit off! One of the guys at the ping pong table shouted, bright orange ball still poised in the air, ready to shoot. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lauren Gilmore. I'm doing creative writing here at Lehigh. I have 3 different poems all about different sorts of love. So the first one is about food. It's also about working in a restaurant, and it's called On Bread. Dead center summer and the smoke from up north draped across the sky like a hangover. My dreams loose teeth, an itch in the back of the throat. But I awake in the same bed, same bearded man standing there, hands and shoes dusted with flour to remind me the reward is in the work, that it matters, even when the sun is a red sand dollar behind a thick screen, to wake with it, to shape something with your hands. He is a carpenter of water, flour, salt, which is to say an alchemist. Watch the dough rise against all odds, life insisting on itself. The headlines do not state which wheat fields have not been burned, which square inch of plaster and which pressure cooker apartment is not cracked. The bearded man smiles, puts a country loaf to my ear and asks if I can hear it popping. Opposite of fire, only thing that returns tenfold what it's eaten. So before coming to Lehigh, I lived in Spokane, Washington, and this is a poem about our old neighborhood. It's called Love Poem in East Central. Down the alley from the meth drive-thru, we rake out our own little corner of the earth. 3 professionals agreed, so you are sawing up the cherry tree while I work at the weeds. You call me over to see the center of the trunk, split and diseased. The sun is an axe in slow motion as I shovel the leaves, fermented layers of last year's plums beneath the melting snow. Expensive cars come and go, bass shaking the ground, a woman's boots slipping in the muddy tracks. Like breaks in the clouds, there are moments when we are alone. I catch a glimpse of your form against the coming dusk, shears extended above your head, or reaching to lift a branch in your struggle to keep things alive by letting others die. Soon we'll go inside and sleep pressed together, my chest to your back, and the train's calls will cross the bedroom like a shadow, announcing itself as it moves from one unseen place to another. And one more poem. This is about trying to love your own self and your body and how hard that is, and also fears. It's called I Chew. Thank you guys so much. I'm really excited to hear all the other poems. It's called I Chew Off My Lipstick Before Noon. We sleep with a 7-pound chihuahua between us, mutt with white paws and a rib cage you could count. He encourages us to get regular exercise, to go shopping for chew toys and marrowless bones he'll like more than your gardening gloves. And what if motherhood is everything I expect it to be? Dehydrated in the mall, carrying a coat in my arms, forgetting my purse everywhere. That's not the right answer, though, when the relatives want to know. You can't say you already regret it, or read them passages from The Hours by Michael Cunningham. See, the woman bakes a cake, then throws it away. She kisses her neighbor without speaking, then checks into a hotel room to read. No, they want grandchildren to make sense of our marriage. Once a baby appeared in the bed between us out of nowhere, and I decided to love him. All of us were naked. It was much like how I've decided to love all of this. Soft, already elastic round of my belly, joyful bus drivers shouting to each other as they pass, black shirts coated in light, wiry dog fur. Much like my body's tight fist of blood she forges to punch me every month, I fail to give her what she's built to grow. I keep catching her hand to plant a kiss on each knuckle, like a girl plucks off petals. I count mine, not mine, not mine, mine. Thank you guys.
Hi, my name is Joe Jager. My story today is called The Prophecy of the Golden Age, and it's an homage to basically the medium and the writers in that medium who kind of made me fall in love with storytelling. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Decisions. Man's way of contemplating the inner turbulences of variables on specific subjects. Their reasoning is hypothetical while their outcomes are more than consequential. Decisions have been made since the beginning of time by various species across various places. What decisions were made before time, and by who? And more importantly, what decisions do they make now? Decisions of power, decisions of value. They all take place in the vacuum of hypothetical uncertainties. With the onslaught of friction upon the world, those decisions must be made. They must be deciphered and put forth into action. The time has come for the decisions to arise. The decisions of the age of heroes must commence. In 1938, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster ushered in the revolutionary age of astonishing heroic tales of the creation of the Superman. The now world-famous character graced the pages of comic books for years to come, sporting his signature red cape and S insignia. With the Man of Steel came the creation of completely different worlds mirroring ours with one exception, the existence of superheroes. The characters spawned a legion of heroes that have become legends, but their worlds have been limited to just that of the creators' minds and the evolutionary availability of efforts to replicate said worlds. That is what we thought. That's what we thought. What many have not known is the legend of the golden age of the comic books and its prophecy of the modern world. To think that these creators did not simply imagine these heroes, but rather were shown them through some sort of divine intervention is hard to comprehend, but is the reality all the same. The books and novels written about these worlds have been the long-awaited prophecy of the Stan Lees and Bill Figures, and today it finally comes into existence. The age of the superhero is upon the world, and there is only one decision left to be made. Who are they? In the pocket dimension beyond time and space, the being known by earthly bounds as John looks at his screen in stoic contemplation. The flashes of light coming off the cosmic mirror illuminate the atomic hydrogen symbol burned into his forehead. He can smell the burning of the plasma and hear the charges of the electrons as he stands silently. As John pores over the data, his otherworldly mind is truly perplexed. This bewilderment leads to frustration as the feeling rushes through his face so much that the blue light radiating from his body turns more purple. His eyebrow muscles furrow at the sight of the numbers and words on the screen, so much so that the white light illuminating from his eye holes seem to have a bit more of a shadow lurching over them. Without touching the screen, he flicks his blue appendage of a hand, causing the screen to go flying. Damn it! His voice erupts in an accent not known to any region of Earth as the screen crashes against the wall. His cadence simultaneously booms and hushes throughout the room. He walks away from the mess, placing his hand on his forehead. Good thing no meat bags were around to see the being who never showed an emotion fall into a ball of frustration and stress. Sorry, humans. Good thing humans weren't around. Humans like to be dressed by their personal label. He sometimes pondered the oddities that were human tradition. Definitions of names and heroes are truly subjective in all reality. But who was he to say, though, as he never lived a normal life? Although, do beings such as John have lives? And if not, what do they possess? Sentience? Certainly they don't possess a soul. John pondered these things between microseconds when they became the equivalent of what humans call bored. But currently he is not bored, he is frustrated with his decision. He has tasked himself with picking the heroes to commence the age of the superhero on the planet known as Earth, and his candidates are over 7 billion. If only it was as easy as showing the writers of Earth his prophecy. Well, that wasn't so easy either. The communication skills between space-time dimensions are flawed, and thus they interpreted his showings as seen in the boxes of the comic book pages. Son of a bitch! John barks as he falls to the ground, grabbing the side of his head as though to stop any thoughts from escaping his mind. Each particle of air from his vocal cords strikes the oxygen atoms with an increased ferocity as his anger dwells. What were the right criteria? What makes a hero? What hero bestowed this responsibility onto him? What power is there beyond the creator of all? It was something not even John could fathom. Humans certainly couldn't be able to fathom John, let alone what was beyond him. This gets John thinking back to humans, about humanity, about what a hero was in humanity's terms. But what was a hero if not someone who does the right thing? Many people do the right thing for the wrong reasons. Does that make them a hero? The words of his prophets, such as Lee, have tried to speak about this notion of what constitutes a hero. Was it truly just someone who chooses to do the things given the opportunity, or is it something more? John cannot choose the correct answer for himself, but that's when it hit him. Choice. The words spoke to John in a way incomprehensible to mortal men. He feels the synapses of his mind fire, and he tries to comprehend the subjectivity of choice. His nostrils flare with the intrigue at the puzzle that is right in front of him, and he can taste the answer on his tongue. The key is in the subjectivity. The independence of the human spirit was random and free to decipher life and the wrongs and rights within it. That madness, that freedom is for them to decide. It is not up to any higher being, even John. So sitting there in front of the broken black mirror, smelling the lingering ammonium in the air, listening to the electronic charges around him, tasting the subtle nuances of the oxygen particles on his tongue, is when John knew the answer. The answer is truly nothing. There is no criteria. There is no right candidate. There is only what there is. Nothing matters. Only those chosen will be able to choose for themselves how they want to be, just like he himself has. And for that reason, he shall choose anybody. The uncertainty of his decision numbed all his senses, even the ones that humans didn't possess. There's only him and his decision. He types carefully into the interdimensional terminal the universal code to the universe that would set forward the age of superhero. And then, with as light of pressure John can make with his finger, he presses send. Now the stage has been set. The heroes have been randomly chosen, and the last thing John can do is sit back and watch with no intervention to see if he has prepared their reality enough to defeat the evil that is coming. He hoped he had, but shall he fail? He hopes only that the beings beyond him would have mercy on the world to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chimike, and I wrote this piece in honor of my friend who I really love, so I hope you guys enjoy it. It's called Anemic. For the longest time, my friends called me a vampire. I thought it was because I hissed like one, baring my white fangs like a cat who wanted to be left alone, but that wasn't the main reason. I happened to be the palest black person they knew, not in a light-skinned way, more like a chocolate-coated lemon, dark brown with a deep yellow undertone that seeped out like light beneath a closed door. With my long locks piled atop my head in a bun, and my sideburns leaking out of my face, I got thrown curious looks everywhere I went. Like a vampire, I felt ostracized, condemned to a life of emotional solitude. How could anyone understand me? I munched on ice in public. When no one was looking, I chewed paper. I was always tired. I had a perpetual headache. You're weak, my friends told me. Eat a hamburger, they said. I'm a vegan, I said. Well, clearly you shouldn't be. I have to, for religious reasons. What religion? Rastafarianism. Is that the one where they smoke weed? Yeah. They laughed and said, that isn't real. You can't say that, I said. I waited for them to realize I was being serious, but instead they laughed some more. I hung my head. The threads of my face unraveled, and they ignored the brittle bone piping that stood in its stead. I was all alone. Another person who didn't understand me was my coach. At practice, a ball whizzed past my head, and my coach yelled, "Watch the fucking ball." I was watching it, but she didn't care. She was stressed. We had a match the next day against the school we always beat, but the roster had changed. The school had managed to recruit a lineup composed entirely of Russians. Dude, they're all foreign, my teammate whined. She shoved her phone screen, which displayed a neat row of grim-faced blondes, into my face as she adjusted her ponytail with her other hand. How are we supposed to win, she asked. Those people actually try. I shrugged. I was never one to give advice. After my coach yelled at me, I asked her if I could sit down. I feel dizzy, I said. Sunspots etched my vision, even though we were playing indoors. Nausea heated up my stomach. My coach grew taller and skinnier as she walked towards me, stretched her arm to my shoulder and guided me away from the bench and back to the net. Okay, she said, bend your knees now. I tried to bend them, but when I caught sight of the ground, it glimmered and roared like an ocean. What am I supposed to do now? I asked my coach. She flattened into one of the white lines bisecting the court. I wasn't sure where her voice was coming from, so I talked everywhere. Bend, my coach yelled. My teammate smacked another forehand up the line. I took a step forward, then stopped. What the fuck are you doing? The white line yelled at my feet. I held my eyes in my hand. Everything had taken on the same shade of yellow, as if it had been slathered in piss. What are we doing? I asked. What are we doing? What are we doing? I looked towards the rafters for an answer, but all I saw was ball fuzz, clumpy and neon, drifting down from the lights like snow contaminated by a nuclear accident. I need to go to the hospital, I said. Those were my last words before I passed out. When I came to, I was greeted by two faces, the face of the doctor and the face of my coach. They were both unappealing, and I pretended to go back to sleep. No, the doctor said, you can wake up now. He was handsome and confrontational, qualities I'd never liked in men. I closed my eyes tighter. Wake up, my coach said. My eyes fluttered open. She was light-skinned and resembled one of my middle school bullies. What? I asked. The room was windowless. I would never escape. The doctor said, your friend who dropped you off said you'd been complaining of pelvic pain. Have you engaged in any sexual activities in the past 3 months? I glanced at my coach, who was bearing down on me with her hazel eyes. No, I said. The doctor looked at my coach. How about 6 months, he asked. My coach said, you can be honest. You're in college. The answer is still no. Okay, the doctor said. How about ever? Usually in these cases, no, never, nothing. Never. My coach had begun pacing around the room. The doctor turned his head and said, could you please give my patient and I some privacy? She left the room. It was just me and the doctor. He had dimples and a slight beard. He smelled sterile, like a brand new car. I wanted to bite him. I inspected the wires on my shoulder. Would you like to tell the truth now? I am, I said, still looking at the wires. I'm a virgin. Oh, could you leave me alone? The doctor shook his head, mumbling, kids these days, under his breath. When I was your age, he began, and then he stopped himself. In a couple of long strides, he left the room, telling me they had to run more tests. The IV bag was nearly empty. I felt an incredible longing for my tongue to melt with chunks of ice, rounded in silver, so that it gleamed like one of the metal instruments that lay on the table before me. The doctor returned with the diagnosis hours later, when I was already asleep. He shook me until my eyes opened. Mom? I said. The doctor said, you are anemic. What? I asked. My coach was with him. She looked down at me. She sighed. I dreamt of ice that night, ice wrapped in paper. The doctor fed it to me off of toothpicks. When it crunched between my teeth, the wet nothingness invigorated me like a steak. I smiled at him and he recoiled at the braid of diamonds that fretted my teeth and mutilated his reflection. "You look different," he said. "What are we doing?" I asked. "What are we doing? What are we doing?" His judgment fell over me like a fog. Thanks, guys.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Cami. I am a queer woman who treasures relationships with other women. And so this is a series of 3 poems dedicated to women who have impacted me in some way. The first is titled Johanna. The chasing, chanting, tinkling of bells, and you. Your ghost stories and dead caterpillars, doll houses and tree houses. You sucked your thumb until you were 13. It was something about your grandparents. You cooked spaghetti at 10 years old because your father was worthless. The stomping, romping, squishing of worms, and you, pinching me and pulling my toes, spitting in my eye and shoving me over. You drew funny little pictures and crossed your fingers. You cast shadow puppets on the wall and left me in the basement while you slept because your parents did it too. The bubbling, dancing, shaking of jars, and you, holding my hand and reading the words for me. Picking me first for dodgeball and kickball. You kissed frogs. You made us take a blood oath. You told me those lyrics reminded me of you. You taught me tough love, and in return, my love was tender. The second is titled Clarissa. There are days that I wonder if we were friends or something more, or both. There were too many sunsets, too many day trips and night drives, shared lip gloss and torn pages. In my mind now, you are just an orb, just a light. There's a sun where your face should be, like bad movie CGI. I look at you through a cat's eye now and pretend to see you dancing because you never danced for me. There are days that you still come out of my pores or out of my ears. There were too many songs that we swore no one else would ever discover, too much vapor in our lungs, and too many lingering gazes. In my mind now, you have enough money, enough to do all the things we said we'd do, but you do them with a boy who has a souped-up car, and you forget about me for the rest of forever. I was late, and it only matters to me now. There are days that I look out my window, asking you questions like you're still there, and not just makeup on a carcass. There are too many unknowns, too many unended nerve endings, too many poems about you that still need writing. In my mind now, you take a picture of us. You stick it on your mirror, the one that I'm looking into, only it's still the window, and you're still that bad movie orb. This is how I'll keep you. And this is titled Macy. Gentle, gentle, gentle is her voice, her smile, her laughter. She leaves the peonies behind her. She holds the moonlight in her palm. She is made of honeycomb, juniper, vetiver, white sage, chamomile, echinacea. She spills forth obsidian, amber, jasper, jade, topaz, aquamarine. She moves like bubbles, petals, smoke, like branches, like sunbeams, like shells on a shore. She spins like a top, opens up like a music box, and when new life springs forth, she carries it out, out, out of the cavern, up, 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 with her hands alone. She melts, threads, dresses it, bundles it and folds it like a box, and tucks pine into its tied string, and then blows it up like a balloon before lifting it up to the clouds. Inside her is a composure unknown. I promise to always notice her. Thank you.
Sorry, y'all. Excuse me. Okay. How are y'all doing today? Good. I'm a theater artist, so I don't need to. My name is Chloe Cole-Wilson. I am the artistic director of Basement Poetry, so I will be introducing the stellar lineup of artists that we have today. We have a musician that's going to play in the midst of some of these pieces as we go. So Max, if you can come on up and set up, that would be great. Yep, that's you. So he's just going to play for us. I will talk a little bit about Basement Poetry. Basement Poetry is a newly 501c3. I'm trying to handle all the paperwork for that. that. So a lot of the work that we do is we're really committed to the community. We're really committed to the community and ensuring that there are spaces for us to indulge in poetry and performance art. We create devised theater, so all of the productions that we have put on in the last 8 years have been written by community. And it's an opportunity for people to really talk about the difficult issues happening today and now. So we curated this selection of artists to read and be a part of this event. We are looking for writers, we're looking for board members, and we're looking for ensemble members. So if you are interested, please email us at Basement Poems. Say that you heard about us here, and we would love to engage with you. In this next series, we encourage you to snap, clap, engage with the artists, please, because they will absolutely appreciate that. Alrighty, yes. So we're gonna get some tunes in between to wake y'all up and shake it up in here. Alrighty. Thank you. Alrighty, so to get us started, it's going to be Miss Latrice, also known as Distinctly Unique. Woo!
Hey y'all. Hey. There we go, that's what I need. Try again. Hey y'all. Hey. There we go. So, my first piece is not bad. You know, we'll go with it. No, go ahead. Cool beans. All right, so this first piece is called Relax, Relate, Release into This Reality. And this is what she lives for, and this is what she heard. And this is what we live for, and this is what we heard. And this is what we live for, and this is what we heard. She prayed that the generational circles of individual and systemic racism be broken, so that for once in her hashtag Black Lives Matter lifetime, she could see what endless possibilities actually looked like, despite her dirty mirrors cracked by white supremacy's iron fist gripped just a little too hard, too strong, too long to quit or ever back down. She found that the more she dug into America's filthy history, the less American she wanted to be. But quite honestly, she's not sure who she is without her North American businesses. So she looked far east past Maine, praying for peace, hoping that times would change if she just rearranged her location and stationed herself in Africa. Only to find out that the country she glorified the most are on their citizens' beware and or corrupt list, with no economic supplement to take or give them. She realizes that she is homeless. Because home is where the heart is, and her heart is hopeless now that she knows that her revered continent, her hometown, her current country, all of them expect currency monthly, regardless of how pure her soul is. Money is the #1 thing these greedy, wannabe world leaders care about. It doesn't matter how much we scream, or shout, or beg to be treated with decency, with respect. If our money hand shows up empty, we are worthless. She is worth less than? Her radiant brown skin might shine in her eyes, but in theirs, her melanin, her gold is not black, beautiful, or gold. It is sold to the fools seeking pools of income for bragging rights and power. Every hour, one of them eats away at her flowers, swapping her peace-inducing African violets with violence, hypnotizing her caring mind with aromatic scents of gluttony and selfishness. But their sour mass smells of greed needs to disappear if she wants to officially stop the trail of tears for once and for all. She knows that it's not her call to make, for she is only the vessel of guidance made to show the good and the bad, the happy and the sad human beings, or monsters, that her freedom waters can run deeper than their eyes will ever see. Still, collectively, we have to give her a chance to evolve from the brooks and the bays into boundless seas, metamorphosing into righteous deep blue oceans, encircling the land her feet so graciously step, almost arrogantly. Because she holds herself to the highest degree and has the action receipts for anyone who dare tries to speak ill will of her name. It's a shame. The world can hear about her triumphant stories daily and still not honor the air she breathes. Still, she chooses to live by the divine words whispered and the magical rainbow colors of the wind, belted in the ancestral ashes found within the fires of every rock and stone, able to stand on its own, to be later picked up by a child, still young enough to believe that the earth does indeed sing. But for us non-thinkers, we can only hear her freedom ring when we take a moment to listen to our own thoughts, to enjoy the roots of life for all that they are. Then, and only then, can we transition from victims into the stars shining their lights for the world to see. Then and only then can I be she and she me, for we are intertwined, designed to teach and learn the meaning of his and her word, for this is truly what we live for. And this is what we heard. As human beings of the earth, if we want to reverse the capitalistic, uncaring, unforgiving curse, we must first reclaim our rebirth, reclaim our worth, let go of material things. We've got to relax, relate, release into this reality. Woo. To live, to see, to give, to grow, to create, to show, to relate. You be, you live, you see, you give, you grow, you create, you show, you relate. I be, I live, I see, I give, I grow, I create, I show, I relate. She said, relax, relate, release into this reality. Listen to her. Relax, relate, release. Relax, relate, release, be. That's that piece. But both of these, the artworks are reflected in both pieces. So here's the second one. Black woman, you so beautiful. Every skin tone, shade, and hue highlights your excellence. You know, your dignity and intelligence is truly unmatched. When I look in your sparkling eyes of presence and awareness, I see a black girl turned black woman, confident, yet constantly attacked by beings who have yet to discover their own beauty, their own duty to self-love and care. Your aura feels so good. Can't help but stare when you pass by. Your energy is equivalent to watching rose gardens and dandelion fields collide. Wondrous, surprise, full of awe and comfort. Colored you are in rainbow, rhythm, and blues. Roots as strong as the strange fruits your ancestors picked and pulled involuntarily. Brown-skinned ladies, have you looked at yourselves lately? Not just at the mirror or selfie pics, but have you witnessed the beauty you encompass in your minds, bodies, and souls? Bronze gold gems of the earth through pain and hurt, you still grace us with warm smiles and unique styles, hair, apparel, and aesthetic. You, Black Goddess, are prophetic in nature, a major contributor to all things good, misunderstood, still you rise like the sun, and you shine time and time again through thick and thin. Your alignment with kindness and happiness is what makes you beautiful. Heart of gold, your made up and natural pose goes deeper than physicalities. Your beauty is beyond skin deep. It seeps out of your pores into the words that fall from your curvaceous lips, full of spellbinding wit and silliness. It's the laughter for days you embrace the world with daily. Black woman, your beauty is the epitome of not just surviving, but living. A testimony of breathing quality air. It ain't fair how great you are. Shining star, I hope you see what I see. Black beauty here unapologetically, more than body and flesh. Every time I look at you, you remind me to see myself and everybody else. Because you, yourself, are the quintessence of life itself. Thank you. Those are my two pieces, but I'm gonna do my shameless plug. April 1st at the Ice House tonight, I'm doing a free public choreo poetry workshop, intergenerational, for all ages, races, sizes, whatever you are. No experience necessary. You just have to be willing to do just what y'all did. Speak.
Up next is Shalane McCall.
Hi everyone. Hi. Okay. I will be reciting a poem from this wonderful artist, Sonia Renee Taylor. As an artist, I am doing a lot with body positivity, hence this amazing photo. And I just want to share this piece with you because it means a lot and it's very inspiring to me. The body is not an apology. Let it not be forget-me-not fixed to mattress when night threatens to leave the room empty as the belly of a crow. The body is not an apology. Do not present it as a disassembled rifle when he has yet to prove himself more than the common intruder. The body is not an apology. Let it not be common as oil, ash, or toilet. Let it not be small as gravel, stain, or teeth. Let it not be mountain when it is sand. Let it not be ocean when it is grass. Let it not be shaken, flattened, and raised in contrition. The body is not an apology. Do not give the body as communion, confession. Do not ask for it to be pardoned as criminal. The body is not a crime. It is not a gun. The body is not a lost set of keys or wrong number dialed. It is not the orange burst of blood to shame white dresses. The body is not an apology. It is not the unintended granule of bone beneath will. The body is not kill. It is not unkempt car. It is not a forgotten appointment. Do not speak it vulgar. The body is not soiled. It is not filth to be forgiven. The body is not an apology. It is not a father's backhand. It's not mother's dinner late again, direct jaw howl. It is not drunken sorcery or confronting steel round tree. The body is not calamity. The body is not a math test. The body is not a wrong answer. The body is not a failed class. You are not failing. It is not a cavity. It is not a hole to be filled or yanked out. It is not a broken thing to be mended or tossed. The body is not an apology. The body is not a prison. It is not a sentence to be served. It's not pavement. It is not prayer. The body is not an apology. Do not give the body as gift. Only receive it as such. The body is not to be prayed for. It is to be prayed to. So, for the forevermore, Tau 10th grade knows hallelujah. For the shower song throat that crackles like a grandfather's Ricola, hallelujah. For the spine that never healed. For the heart that's broken, hallelujah. For the slowing pulp of back, belly, and hip, hallelujah. For the errant hairs that rove the face like a pack of misplaced wolves, Hosanna. For the parts that we have endeavored to excise, blessed might be the cancer, the palsy, the womb that opens like a trapdoor. Praise the body in its blackjack magic, even in this. For the razor wire mouth, for the sweet God ribbon within it, praise. For the mistake that never was, praise. For the mistake you never were, praise. For the bend, twist, fall and rise again, fall and rise again. For the raising like an obstinate Christ. For the salvation of a body that will bend like a baptismal bowl. For those that will worship at the lip of this sanctuary. Praise the body, for the body is not an apology. The body is deity. The body is God. The body is God. The only righteous love that will never need repentance.
Danielle, can you come up to the stage, Crystal?
Hey y'all! Hey! Hi, I'm Crystal, and I will be performing 3 pieces from a narrative choreo poem that I wrote called The Perfect Illusion. Chaos. Complete disorder, confusion. They said it's an illusion. Behavior so unpredictable, it's as if it's random. It's not random. I wake up in the morning, her body being slammed into a wall, no warning. 1 p.m. gets slapped. 2 p.m. he snapped. 3 p.m. belt strapped. Oh, snap! 4 p.m. we're trapped. 5 p.m. I adapt. The cycle continues. Look within you. They said it's an illusion. I tried to look inside and found nothing left to hide. Don't dwell in the past. Today is a new day. Maybe God will make a way. They said it's illusion. God doesn't make a way. The cycle continues. They said it's illusion. Here we go again. Round and round, the circle of abuse, it never ends. But you hold your head up high and you push the pain down low. Shh. Keep your mouth closed and we'll never know. They said it's illusion. They know. You can't control what they say, so control what they see. They said it's an illusion, the perfect family. It's not perfect. We keep working and trying and working, trying to move on despite the pain, enduring through the rain, working to make sure things stay the same, never change, despite from whence we came. A moment of silence for what we lost. You mean who we lost, right? A father addicted to laying down the law with his hands, a mother stands even though she can't stand. Our home, we're out here all alone, don't worry now, I'll be your family, a shelter from the calamity. He could be our saving grace, he could help me finish this race, but that's not the case, he's two-faced. Wrap me in your embrace, help me to provide for my family and not lie to their face. Just another sweep under the rug, everything's a battle, a fight, a struggle that keeps on struggling, but try as we might. Just another black family stereotype. This is where I am. In spite of the trauma, the drama, the abuse, the misuse from my father, I tried to find a way to see the light. You'd say, what we've overcome doesn't make our light shine any less bright. But your uptightness, disguised as brightness, tainted my likeness, my worldview, if you only knew. I watched my father hit you, day and night, even though you did everything right. 20 years of marriage blows up in just one night, and in walks our knight. That's not quite. I grew up with a provider, not a father. I never saw the signs, and on a night of nights, he took my light. Why did you allow him in my life? Was it because he tainted your sight? Was it because he seemed so nice? Or was it because you thought you couldn't live without a man in your life? And I didn't tell you because I knew what you'd say. That's what happens when you don't pray. You made perfection a requirement. There's beauty in refinement. You wanted me to be like you, Miss Goody Two-Shoes. Miss always follows the rules. Miss hides behind the clothes and the makeup and the hair, making me believe, teaching me subconsciously, so disguised by what I wear, by this mask that I bear, that you can't even see I lost me. I tried to never let my emotions, my feelings take flight. I swept it out of the rug, and my heart just swept the pain away so I wouldn't fall apart. It's what you always said from the start. I did it all. I followed your call. I watched you. And in the end, I still fell apart. It's funny, you know, how every time I go to open my mouth, your words, I hear your voice. What happens in this house stays in this house. Do not open your, keep it to yourself. Put a smile on your face. Everything's gonna be all right. Just give it to God. Never let them see inside the ugliness, the you that needs to be kept in the dark so it doesn't leave a mark. Now the opposite is true. I'm just like you, except I'm like you. Hiding behind a would-be sincere smile and using my relationship with God to keep me in denial. But the words I cannot confess, the ones you told me to hold close to my chest, those words, they just don't die out. They stay in this house that's not a house, this humble abode that's not our own, where I'm alone, even though everyone's home. Just another sweep under the rug, right? It's what you always said. It's what you always imply. Hiding behind pretty words about God and everything being all right, thinking that will keep them from seeing that I'm really scared and exposed. But guess what? Now everyone knows. What's an illusion? A misleading image represented as visual stimulus. It's believing my kids would be the same even when I threw one of them away. A perception of something objectively existing in such a way as to cause misinterception of its actual nature. It's believing my mother was flawless, perfect. Holding on to the anger inside, it kept me from my purpose. It's not worth it. A deceptive appearance or impression, a distortion of the senses, our senses, my senses. It's the binding feeling of holding it in, never giving in, never letting them see my sin, the mistakes. It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay, but it's not always okay. Just like that, we move on next day, never acknowledging what we lost, what was said. Instead, we hide behind our morals, our thoughts, the troubling ways, raised to believe that enduring is a cure. Never speak up, never talk back, just take it and do not look back. God will make a way. Life continues, it teaches you, it taught me. I held so tight, never knowing it's not a fight. The children have wings, beautiful wings. Those wings need to be spread, let them take flight. I grew, I flew, even then I knew. I forgive you. I took a step back and I realized I was alone. I took their light. True growth requires forgiveness and understanding of the past, the mistakes made on both ends. Never again. Bold statements made, and we don't know where we'll end. Instead, we focus on making amends. The perfect family? Nah, that's just an illusion. Thank you.
Up next is Zell. Come on.
How you guys doing? Can we clap for all the readers and poets that came before me, please? Clap for Max on the guitar. So I'm Zell, aka Zelly Zell, aka the real Zelly Zell. You can follow me, the real Zelly Zell. I'm a rapper and a producer, and I'm gonna do some poetry for you. Is that cool? Yeah. So the piece that I picked, like his face is just so raw with emotion. It's either the calm before the storm, or it looks like that moment when maybe some trauma, some traumatic experience happened, and you just gotta take that moment to really just soak it all in. Like, did that really just happen? Mm-hmm. Right before you step out to your regular life, right before you put that smile back on your face, look like it's really taking that moment to collect himself. So what I'm about to do represents that. It's inspired by that. Yeah, since I'm a rapper, I need some engagement from y'all. So during the poem/song, I point to this side, and when I point to this side, I need y'all to say la-di-da, and when I point to that side, I need you to say it's all good, all right? So I'm gonna go la-di-da, it's all good. That was great, that was great. I know it's a little section, but you know. All right, good. 1, 2, 3. La-di-da. It's all good. All right, I think we're ready. All right. I just came to drop some knowledge. I'm out of school, yes, I did drop out of college. I'm not a fool. I just know I got the mileage to go pilot my own ride up to the moon. I just need a major label license, then we take off. And every day I promise I won't take a day off. Never know the day that you're gonna make it, just stay faithful. And hope it's true that you get everything you pray for. Go and chase your dreams is something you cannot wait for. Cause time flies. It ain't no guarantee you really get it next time. And ain't no telling if you really get it next life. So mama, I promise that I'm gonna be the next guy to make it. I know it's cliche, but mom, I just feel like I'm famous. Put you in a mansion with a pool in the basement while you talk amongst your friends like it's cool that you raised me. That's my son. Ain't he amazing? No mistake, if they hate, it's okay, say, la-di-da, it's all good. Yes, sir. Living the way, I just pray that it change, say, la-di-da, it's all good. It's the name that they can't take away, say, la-di-da, it's all good. We gotta do that over here. It's a name that they can't take away, say, la-di-da, it's all good. From where I stand, I'm the man that I am, say, la-di-da, it's all good. I say it's all good, cause I ain't in these streets where they wish your brother would. He was only 15 when he went back to the hood, just to find out that's the last day that he ever could see his mother in the city. They was in the wrong hood, but their boys might get iffy. You from out of town, the situation might get sticky. Cause they might try to clown when they know they got like 50 behind them, ready for violence. So they take a life, cause they ain't got one. You let them know you got no problems, they gonna start one. They was headed back home before they got jumped. Then they put that metal freaking blade where his heart pumps. Now he grabbing his chest. We be asking God for riches, he just asking for breath. Trying to hold on to his life, or whatever that's left. He's getting weaker by the minute, trying to grasp his strength. So then he passed to his death. Another lesson learned, why I try not to bask in his stress. See why he no longer breathing, his family forever breathing, so I look up in the sky like I'm glad that I'm blessed. No mistake, if they hate, it's okay, say, la-di-da, it's all good. Living this way, I just pray that it change, say, la-di-da, it's all good. It's the name that they can't take away, say, la-di-da, it's all good. From where I stand, I'm the man that I am, say, la-di-da. It's all good. It's all good. That's all I got for you. Thank you, Dean, for having me. I really appreciate you. I'm Zell. My goal is to take music with substance to a mainstream market. I think it's possible.
Yes.
So if you want to help, support, or just, follow the journey, The Real Zelly Zell is my ad name everywhere, and that's enough promoting me. Let's have a good time.
Is our president, Deirdre Van Welton. Hey, everybody. Hey. One more time for all the beautiful poets. So, this piece right here. I have a real short piece to read to it. Here it is. You can hear me okay, right? Whoa, there's my blooper moment, yo. So when I look at this piece, these are the thoughts that came to mind. As long as we have each other, as long as we stay a crew, we must hold on tight to each other, and I will protect you. Safeguarding any elements that can do bodily harm, protecting you from all your fears. I'm right here to disallow.
Yeah.
The love we share between us, solidarity of mind and heart. This is the kind of love that no thing or no one can tear apart. If I have something good, please know that so do you. Celebrating our kinship and unity, supporting and loving me and the crew. That's it. So this next piece, so I kind of wrote thoughts and then I wrote a poem. And so it's giving me full community, but I'll do the poem first. And if you notice, take a look at the picture. What's going on here? What's going on back there? This guy over here. The piece is called Open Air School, as you can see. Like, they're planting seeds over there,
breaking the earth and turning soil, as we're planting seeds right here, so our hearts and minds never spoil. Inhale. Our brains, our hearts, our history, exchanged through storytelling and books, keeping a safe space for each other as this overseer sits and looks. Exhale. Nurturing our beautiful souls in spite of our condition and state of being. There's not one thing that can break us, not one thing that stops us from seeing. Inhale. We sit together and share and care for preservation of the mind, lessons of life, education, and history, so we will never be truly blind of the love we have for one another in the midst of, in the light of this life. Our children, our elders, our community, our people go on no matter what strife. They planted seeds in the earth over there with an overseer investing his time. We are pouring into our loved ones. Our purpose is to raise our minds. Keeping stories of the old days, knowledge, history, awareness, and pride, reinforcing valued elements, quenching thirst, and strengthening our stride. They're cultivating the land over there. We feeding each other's souls over here. Although some folks could care less about us meeting our essential needs, as the Mexican proverb goes, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we were seeds. This picture also, it just kind of took me back to the sense of community, right? South Street. Since I'm so grateful for my community, growing up in a city with so much going around, the Panthers, the Black Panthers, used to be abundant growing up in Newark, New Jersey. I remember the remains of a slither of red, of black, of green. Looks like the National Guard missed those traces when they blasted out all the Black Panthers where they once resided. Grateful for my neighbors that would gladly report any wrongdoings they witnessed, that any of my mother's children were involved. It was annoying back then, but it was a community all the same, woven by love and concern. Our house was the learning center. My mother would teach us social etiquette, how to hold a fork, how to sit, and politely ask to be excused before leaving the dinner table. She taught us love and care for one another. It really does take a village to raise a child. And I'm just grateful that such love poured into our veins of existence, and it has kept this love of community alive. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Lehigh University, for having us. Thank you, Stacey Owens, is a huge advocate of our work. Follow us on Facebook, at Facebook Poetry, and on Instagram. And yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you.
So we're going to transition to an art of appreciation exercise with Guillermo Lopez. We also have Afiwa Fondolo's exhibition upstairs, and she'll be facilitating a blackout poetry exercise. So I hope you'll stick around. There's still food here. Take a look at all the artwork. Come back often and visit us. But please hang out, and we're going to, I think, resituate. We'd like to pull chairs around in more of a circle here. And Guillermo, I'd love to welcome you up here. Thank you again to everyone today.
Poetry readings I've been at Lehigh. And just since we're waiting a few minutes to see if anybody else will join us, I would just say that was exactly as I a real opportunity for us to uplift artists, to be uplifted by artists, to really I kept track of the number of people who showed up because, you know, Lehigh cares a lot about numbers, metrics. So I give them some metrics that are different than zero and show them why they matter and that we have a lot to contribute, and if they invested in us, that we could really enrich the community instead of always trying to jump over the barriers to prove that we can enrich the community.
I'd just like to add that I think it's really wonderful. A lot of times the programs of the university are university, so I really appreciated the integral involvement of members of the community, not only Bethlehem but Allentown, you know, the entire Lehigh Valley. It was represented in the Readers Club, and that's quite remarkable and commendable.
Thank you for noticing that, because I think that this is an ancient problem. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful job. No, I lost my place. I can't do that well. As I was saying, this is an ancient problem. We are not going to solve racism in 1 year. But I'm not ready to go as slowly as other people are ready to go, or want to go, or are slowing us down, right? And this is an ancient problem that's going to take all of us to address. And so I want to include everyone who's willing to do the work, and if they're not yet ready to do the work, to come here and learn how to do the work, and to really understand the difference. But, you know, I don't know if there's an us and the them, but it's certainly clear to me that there are some people who believe that there is an us and a them, right? And if that's what they believe, I want them to see that it's way more fun here with us. You know, that here with us is the place to be. And then organically, racism might dry up and die. I'm not going to wish for that. I mean, I hope for that, but I'm working toward that by cultivating a community here that everyone who's saying it all would want to be. And I can't do that without the community. There's nothing that has happened in this conference that I could have done alone. I don't have the expertise. I don't have the energy. Most importantly, I don't have the lived experience, frankly, right? And so the way I see myself as director of the Marcon Institute is the workhorse. I'm laying the foundation, I'm making the connections, and I'm creating the space for the people who do know the path forward. And then I'm there, running out ahead, removing barriers, getting people out of our way. That's what I can do for the Marcon Institute, and that's what I hope to do. And I think that if there's anybody in the community who can tell me how to do it better, or can point me in the direction of some barriers, that's where I'm going. And this is something that, you know, this isn't an original idea that I have. It's not like I figured out some magic solution. I essentially look to folks like Guillermo Lopez and Marvin Boyer, who have taught me so much in the time that I have known them about leadership, about being an elder, about genuinely being a good and kind and patient person. I've never met a person more patient than Marvin Boyer. Those of you who know me know what I'm talking about. And I have never met a person who can bring peace to a room like Guillermo Lopez. I want to talk a little bit about Guillermo Lopez, and this morning when I was sitting down thinking about I don't have 3 hours to say all of the things that he has done and all of the reasons that I love him. And I thought, where am I going to start? And I remember meeting Guillermo at an event for community engagement when I first started at Lehigh back in 2009, and he just came to that event with such humility, and he was working at the Hispanic Center at that time, and he said, I'm here representing the Hispanic Center, and I'm here to collaborate, I'm here for the community, come see me. You remember that? I hope that quote is pretty much on, it was years ago. And I remember thinking, oh, that's who I need to know. That's who's leading this community. And what I found out was that, if I had known all that he had done, I would have been much more intimidated. I wouldn't have really gone up to him and introduced myself. But Guillermo is the founder of Intersect Alliance. He's the owner of GPES Consulting, COPS and Community Co-Director. He is the inspiration, motivation, and leadership of the Guillermo Lopez DE&I Institute, co-chair of the Equity Committee for the Eastern Area School District, and probably one of my favorite people in the Valley, my neighbor and my friend, Guillermo Lopez. I want to also say a few words about another friend of mine that I admire tremendously and that I am so grateful to have gotten to know through the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute, and that's Marvin Boyer. Marvin is the 2019 winner of the NAAC Image Award, and 2019 was a year he was just racking up awards. In 2019, he also won the Easton Area Boys and Girls Club Community Service Award, and honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't won more awards. I've never seen another person more dedicated to the community, more involved in making our community safer, and more, I already used the word patience, but just steady. You can always count on him, and no matter how chaotic the room gets, he stays steady, he stays on task, and he stays trying to get people included in the conversation and moving forward. He's the chair of the board of directors for the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute. He's the Pennsylvania State Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Commission member for, I believe, 5 years now, correct? He's the Northampton County Prison, he's also on the Northampton County Prison Advisory Board, and he has been integral and remains an integral part of working to dismantle mass incarceration throughout the Lehigh Valley and beyond. Thank you both for being here. At this point, I just want to turn it over to Guillermo and Mark.
Wow, thank you, Helena, and congratulations on the Radical Love Conference. It's 5 days of introspect, of speaking truth to power, and showing what love really is about. So I'll turn over to Marvin in a minute, but I just want you to know a little bit about how I see myself. I'm very Puerto Rican, and then I'm exactly who my ancestors wanted me to be. That's how I try to lead, that's how I try to live, and I say that humbly and emotionally. So I've been part of the Marcon Institute since it started, and by the way, I just want to give a shout out to Charlie Marcon and his wife, I'll say it this way, stepped up, right? Stepped up and also stepped in. He leaned in. I'm going to give a quick definition. You all heard what that leaning in, how important that is. I will say that that is what Charlie has done. He has leaned in, and he has stayed in there with the challenges that come with leaning in. And I think that's part of what we're doing here today. So it's called the art of appreciation, because I think it's fair to say that right now our society does not necessarily trust leaders as a general rule, and that our society is much more comfortable attacking leaders versus holding them up and respecting the good that they do. So my belief is that if we continue to attack leaders, good people won't want to be leaders. And that's not going to bode well for us down the road. So what's the opposite of an attack? It's an appreciation. And that's what I want to do. I want us to practice that art, and I want us to be intentional about it. And I also want to say that my belief of diversity, equity, and inclusion, ultimately the goal of DE&I is love. When it's all said and done and it's done right, it's love. And so I also believe that it's our responsibility as good people to do as much healing in the world that we can. And I will say that we cannot repair the harm of the past by using harm in the moment. So whatever we do to move forward, it has to be free of harm. It has to be with love. So that's what this session's about, and I chose this particular group, and I've included Carolina Hernandez. She didn't know it, but I pulled her since she's here. She's someone that I appreciate. I wanted to make it a public statement. So this exercise is about how we help leaders who have consistently done the right thing in difficult situations, that they don't give up and that they know that it's worth it. And I came to the realization recently. I had to do a talk about the struggle, and when I was done, what I said was, and the struggle is well worth it. And that's what I want young people to hear, that the struggle is well worth it. So I'll turn it over to Marvin for him to do his quick introduction, and then I'll start the exercise.
Thank you, Guillermo. If I ever needed a public relations person, you're hired. You know, before I came here today, I was thinking about different definitions of what a good leader is. And there was one that particularly resonated with me. A good leader is like the mythical Bigfoot, whose footprints is everywhere, but whose presence is nowhere. A leader is a dealer in hope, okay? And a good leader is a better listener. One of the things that I'm a disciple of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of them is listen to understand in order to be understood. Very important that you have those listening ears on. Particularly, and in the work that I do, there's a lot of people who have the right idea, but how to get to that end point, that goal, have a lot of different ways they want to achieve that. And sometimes that can be very challenging. Sometimes it can be very frustrating. One reason I go to the gym, because it's sometimes those frustrations, and it's knowing how to work collaboratively. And I think it was said this a little while ago, the need for collaboration, and that's the big thing. Knowing how to work collaboratively with people who have different ideas, different ways about going and achieving success. Collaboration is extremely important. And a good leader will, his ultimate goal, other than getting, is training other folks to be a leader. And a good leader also has to be a good follower. There's times a leader has to know when to step back and let others take the lead. So that's all I have at this point. I'm sure as time goes on, I'm going to chip in, because although I talk about being quiet, sometimes I have a hard time with that. So, okay. So who do we go to from here? Okay.
So let me let me lay the groundwork. So about 5 years ago, maybe more, I was asked to attend a meeting in Northampton County Corrections. And so that's, I don't know, maybe 3 years before George Floyd, about that. The corrections facility and their executive director, James Castora is the executive director, is that what his title is?
He's the director of corrections.
Director of Corrections, James Castora, had a death in his family, or he would be here, so that I could embarrass him with compliments also. But he had a death in his family and he can't be here. So, someone within the system, and I believe it may have been you, Dave, was the first contact, or it may have been Nate. But there was an outreach to me to help them start having a more deeper dialogue around the issues of race in the workplace. And so I have to describe Castora a little bit. He's a retired Navy SEAL. He has a very narrow way of seeing things. And the training is intense for you to be a Navy SEAL, you know, you just follow that narrow road and you don't get distracted by anything else. So somehow or other, Dave, in his time with him, was able to convince him that there is a need for it. And I'll let Dave talk about that. But what I'm trying to say to you here is that as much as things look bad, there are good things happening. We just don't hear it. And I want to be able to point out that this system that includes Marvin, Lamont, Dave, and James is part of that. It was part of how discussions happened in community. It was in conversations. It was in moments where individuals would meet and require people to do the right thing respectfully. It was not done in my opinion, in a way that would throw anybody out of a conversation. It was always done with the intent, this is difficult, we gotta get it right. Who do we turn to for help? And it was harsh, and I'll tell you, one of the first conversations I had with Castora was just him and I alone. And he said, you know, I don't like using the word race, but I think we have a problem with that. And my response usually is, if you have racism, it's your HR's department to deal with it, not mine. I come in as a consultant to help people understand better, to learn how to treat each other better, and to how to move the organization forward in conversations that is about healing, about respect, and about holding on to each other. But if you want me to come in here and talk to racists, that's your HR department. They have to deal with them, not me. And he chuckled, you know? And then we started from there. So anyway, I'm here to have this conversation to say that now, 5 years later, they have figured out, based on our consulting and support from Marvin and pressure from Dave and wisdom of James Castora and the leadership of Lamont McClure as county executive, because eventually he had to approve everything that we did, right? No matter how risky it was his determination that it was the right thing to do. And you know, I remember in church they used to say to me, if you want to know where someone's heart is, check your checkbook. And he put money behind the work.
We had the leadership in other areas that we had here in Northampton County with Lamont. Things would be so much better in some other counties. Great job with leadership and being progressive as it relates to some of the needs that we have as a community. So kudos to you for that. And just the promotion recently with Dave, which came.
I'm going to let Dave talk about the struggle and where he feels he's at now. Okay.
My name is David Collins. I've been working in Northampton County Corrections since 2002, January. Started off in juvenile corrections and worked my way up to from youth care worker to rec coordinator to supervisor. Hit that glass ceiling, wanted more. So I transitioned to prison in 2009, became an officer. 2011 became lieutenant. 2013 became captain. And before I was going to sail off into the sunset, I just got promoted recently to public safety administrator, as recently as February 2nd this year. One thing I want to piggyback off of what Barbara has said is this gentleman sitting to my right was like a godsend in regards to what he has implemented and brought to the DOC. When I first started the DOC, there wasn't a lot of diversity, and there wasn't that many minorities. And when I mean minorities, I mean white females, African-American females, African-American males, people with afros, locks, cornrows. I mean, that was like unheard of. So when I became lieutenant, I had a few minority officers that were working there saying, Dave, you got to do something. You got to get more minorities hired. And again, it was all the minorities I just named. So it takes a while to do things. And one thing about African Americans, when we get positions of power, we have the whole race on our back. Like people, and I'm sure Marvin can attest to this, and I know Guillermo can. This is not to slight Mr. McClure here, but when it comes to minorities, it's like you got the whole race on your back. And you have to remember, one, that I'm African American, and who happens to be in a position of power. So I have to be that authority to say, you know what, that complaint is legit. But you know what, that was not so much. Or I think Mr. McClure is a racist. No, he's not. I had to be the one to say, no, he's not. This is why the man said this or ordered that. But I can understand why some minorities would feel or make that accusation. So it's a hard thing to juggle. And in my position, having many more minorities now, almost 50%, that landscape has changed. You have younger people now who have a lot more vigor, a lot bigger of a voice. They don't mind making a stand and making a statement, which is impressive. Going back to the George Floyd things and Ahmaud Arbery thing and the protesting, it's amazing to see how things have changed in my lifetime. So that being said, my job at the time was being captain and public safety administrator, doing my job within corrections, but at the same time, having to be like that resident African American that can teach all who are not African American or maybe not Hispanic on why someone feels this way, or why something may be racially insensitive, or something may be racist or racist insensual, or just insensitive or culturally not permitted. I recall one situation where we had an African American officer, and she had her hair, done as African American women do. The woman that she was working with at the time was Caucasian, and she was curious about her hair. So, and within her curiosity, she wanted to touch her hair, which is like a no-no amongst African American women. I'm sure you can attest to it. And it's not a racial thing, it's just a cultural thing. I mean, there's things that we don't understand about each other unless we talk about it. So I've always been the person who's been that liaison, that segue from the officers to the administration, because I'm like right there in the middle. And the juggling act is hard sometimes, because then you get accused of being a sellout, like myself, but my own people call me sellout when things don't go the way they think. Or I might get pushed back from maybe some of my people who I supervise who thought I always made something about race. When in actuality I wasn't. I'm just a firm believer in handling business as it pops up. You gotta be honest, you gotta handle it honestly. Excuse my language, hit shit or miss, you gotta play it straight. And I was always the one that played it straight, for better or for worse, and I always got into that good trouble. That's classically, you ask anybody about me, I'm the good trouble guy. So Mr. McClure coming aboard and Guillermo Lopez coming aboard was validation in regards to what was needed there. There's been a big void that was missed for as long as I've been within the county, and I know it goes back deeper than that. So I'm looking forward to moving this thing we call racial understanding, or trying to balance the playing field, or however you want to say it. I'm looking forward to trying to do that in unison, because it just can't take myself, Marvin, and Guillermo. You know, I'm amazed to sit here and see as many Caucasian people here, because that's what it's going to take. You know, until the unaffected are just as outraged as the people who are, nothing's going to change. So it takes communication, it's going to take understanding, it's going to take open-mindedness. You might have to look at yourself in the mirror like, damn, like, I didn't realize I was like that, or gave off that perception. Because there was nothing worse than hearing from some of my officers who look like me, who accuse my administration that I'm a part of being racist. And I know they're not racist. I know this. So I'm fighting a battle, not only for my colleagues, but I'm also trying to address the concerns of people who like me. So now I'm in this tug of war where I'm making everybody mad. So, but at the end of the day, I'm willing to stand tall, stand firm in that, and keep working, because it takes communication, it takes talking, it takes being honest. You know, it takes resilience. You gotta have a thick skin. Like I said, I've been called a sellout before. I've been called, you're not a brother anymore. So it's hard. But if it's for the greater good, I'm not trying to sound corny, but if it's for the greater good, it's what has to happen. And that's why everybody's not cut to be county executive, or Guillermo Lopez, or Marvin Board. That's why there's so few of us, because it is so precious, and there is a lot of weight on that. I'm just mirror David Collins of DOC. I couldn't imagine being somebody like a Mark McClure. I couldn't imagine. The pressures I get in that little facility, I couldn't imagine. This gentleman right here, you know, it's a testimony to his courage and who he is as a person, willing to take this leap such as that, because there's jokes made. There was jokes about me coming here today. So, but again, is it the right thing to do? All I know is right and wrong. I don't worry about the naysayers and the name calling. I mean, I never was really one for peer pressure if it means for the greater good. And I get a good feeling sitting here with everybody in this circle in regards to what we're trying to accomplish. I really do. I mean that honestly.
I think he deserves a round of applause. And before Lamont speaks, I want to say that I'm doing this work 30 plus years, and I don't think I'll say it this way, I don't think I've ever met a white man in the role that he has of leadership that has empathy, understanding, and similar to Charlie, has leaned into being uncomfortable, is not afraid of difficult conversations, seeks out input of people that he thinks add to the conversation and move things forward. And we need more people like him.
I concur with that.
We filming all this? Because I can go now. So I can't even begin to express how deeply grateful I am to these gentlemen for the kind things they have just said about me, but it's not why I'm here. I'm here for a few big picture reasons. And one of them we saw walking up the steps just now. I feel so small having a microphone in my hands after listening to those words. I mean, so if you're, around my age and maybe a little bit older, and you're in a public-facing job like I have, you do get to spend a lot of time with young people. And there's one thing I'm pretty sure, that it's one of these big ideas that I do have. We're going to be fine in the future. We are. I really have a great deal of confidence in the future. What I'm mostly concerned about is the here and now. For those seeds to grow and be realized, we have to continue to make sure that the soil is cultivated. And we're in some people call it an inflection point, others call it a tipping point. but we're at a point in our society and our culture and in the world where we have decisions to make. And I believe if we just use our privilege, our power, our influence to hold this thing together until they are fully grown, till these saplings are fully grown, everything will be just fine. So that's how I sort of get up every day and think about how we deal in our little corner of the world. That's how I think about it. Just keeping this thing together until they are ready to take over. With respect to the issues that these gentlemen said that I work on, I don't really work on. I just have a particular philosophy about it. And it's this: I know that I have privilege by virtue of my birth. And I know by virtue of how I look, I have power. And by virtue of the office I hold in our little corner of our Commonwealth, and in our little corner of this country, I have the ability to influence things on a positive basis. And so what I often tell folks when I'm talking about these issues is I'm going to go and use up all my power and all my privilege for the folks, all the folks. And when I'm done using it up, I'm going to go away. And that's how I feel about that. And so when I'm done, I will have, to the best of my ability, used up all my power and privilege and influence to make things just a little bit better in our little corner. That's really how I'm approaching my work. So if you think about why I do what I do, that's why I do it. Because I acknowledge privilege, and I acknowledge power, and I know that it needs to be not checked, it needs to be given to the folks. It needs to, I need to radiate it out to make people's lives better. Not give it away, not put it in a box, not run away from it, not apologize for it, not be afraid of it, but to use it to make people's lives better. Guillermo did a wonderful job of introducing Jim Castor, who's not with us here today, but due to another, he's had bad luck in his family this year, unfortunately. But he is our Director of Corrections, and he is way more conservative than Guillermo described. I mean, he is a very, very, very conservative man. He is the last guy you would think, as a director who had risen to Director of Corrections, who would lean into diversity, equity, and inclusion training. But he has leaned way in. So much so that when we have cabinet meetings, because he's a member of my cabinet, when he walks in, I'm like, oh, here's the most progressive member of our cabinet. Here comes the woke guy. But he, I think, is not progressive, not liberal, not woke. But he knows about love, right? And there it is.
That's where his values lie.
He knows about love, right? And he, even though he's the kind of guy who would never say that. What are you people talking about? And I'm leaving. But he's really, I think, the reason this is working. I might have had other directors of corrections who would not have had the credibility with, and Dave's subject to my will now, so I mean, he's got to be careful what he's advocating. But Dave's not wrong. There's a power structure to this day that is overwhelmingly white. It's still overwhelmingly white. And these aren't people who are filled with hate. It's not the way, it's not the way this works. It's people who really spend time in this space understand. It's the unconscious biases that really hold us back. It's, the ceiling is glass because you can't see it, right? But it's there. When you hit your head into it, you know about it. And Jim, I think, because he is so conservative, it does come out of the military and has the values that he has the kind of credibility to say, hey, we're doing this. I don't care what you people think. We're doing this. We're going to put the work in, and we're going to have a better place to live and work. And prison's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place. And I mean, Dave can speak to this far better than I can. But it's important that you understand cultural differences or perceived cultural differences. And, so many people are in there with drug and alcohol problems. So many people come out of hopeless economic situations. And there are just some bad dudes, right? I mean, that's true too.
10%.
And you've got to really just, be, so it isn't like Shawshank Redemption, where you're just walking up and down the halls with your keys and I mean, they're called on to do so many other things. They're called on to be first responders. They're literally called in to talk people off ledges. They're called in to save people from trying to kill themselves. I mean, they're being asked to do so much more. And I think with the diversity, equity, and inclusion training, and Guillermo, correct me if I'm wrong, it really helps see the humanity of the person who's in there in detox and making sure they get down to medical so that they get their medications so that they don't end up dying from their detox, because they see the humanity. I mean, we all heard stories about people just being ignored because they were less than. Well, part of our goal in our corrections facility is not to have anyone seen as less than, right? Not to have anyone seen as less than. And that's really our goal. I talk too much.
No, not at all. There was something that, the first year that we did the work with them, it was a sort of like getting to know each other. And so we tried our normal unconscious bias training kind of thing with everyone. And then after a year, we reassessed. And oh, I have to mention my partner, Ellen Greenberg from Intersect Alliance. She's a master at organizational development, and she says she uses me to mix it with DE&I. That's sort of the combination that works for us. But what I'm trying to point out here is how far and how outreaching this program has become. So there was a decision made about using 3 different methods of training. One was training leadership into, and not these words, but I'm just doing it so I don't have to explain a whole lot. Get on board or get out, right? That was sort of what the training was like for the leadership. And then we would do regular training for the people that are there the most to do the regular work. And we would bend their nose a little and then come back. And then COVID hit and we couldn't do the general body. But what has proved to be the most significant is that we tested out that the new employees would be trained first by my company before they got any corrections training. The very first thing they got was unconscious bias training. That was step 1 for them. And that has proved to be paramount in how it is that we move the rest of the system. So now that we're ready to rally back, that we think COVID's, I don't want to say we have control over COVID, but or we got used to it. But now we're getting ready to do the regular body, and through Christora's leadership, has decided to do deeper. And now he's asking us to do training for inmates and their families.
Wow.
Around unconscious bias. All that because people like Marvin, people like Dave, people like Lamont, like Christora, continue to have these difficult conversations and hold on to each other as we move forward. And that's who I'm trying to give the appreciation to that system. Listen, I benefit as a consultant, no 2 ways about it, right? But here's the other thing that people don't realize. In his forward thinking, Lamont said to me, the beauty of this that nobody realizes is that you are training future law enforcement because corrections is a stepping stone for people to become law enforcement. Think about that. That's really thinking forward, and that was a decision. The other thing that he did that is not talked about here, and it was through Marvin's support in some of our difficult conversations, he funded to have every law enforcement department in Northampton County trained at no cost to them in unconscious bias work. And I think we're getting ready to follow it up again. It's like 3 years ago since we did it. But you know that term when it's defund the police? His campaign slogan is, "We're gonna fund the police." I just want to give more admiration to you, Marvin, for consistently. You know, sometimes I think I do this, like I gotta wipe stuff out of my face because of how much comes at me. I believe sometimes that happens to you too.
Question. You know, unconscious bias, we all got biases, you know. I got them, everybody in this room got them. And communications breaks it down. Those of you who have first seen me, you have a perception. The guy's a little old. He's a little tall, not too, you know. We all have biases that are based upon initial interactions. It's human nature, you know? And those biases may be reinforced, you know, when you meet somebody and they don't say anything, you may have certain perceptions, and that bias might be affirmed by their talking, you know? That person looks pretty smart, then you hear them say, they're not as smart as I thought they were, you know? And I'm just breaking it down in terms of, you know, I have some background in this, and it's human nature. I can tell you, you know, growing up, you know, I went to a predominantly all-white school, and I used to hear, you're a credit to your race. And sometimes I said, you're a credit to your race too. And the white person looked at me and said, well, what do you mean by that, you know? And it's just, you know, because, you know, the obvious comment was that you are an exception to the rest of them. You know, you're different than the rest of them. Well, how are the rest of them, you know? Tell me about that. And that's a perception, okay? And it's based on any number of things, those perceptions. And usually it's lack of interaction, you know? When you get to know someone who's different, well, you know, we have more in common than we give ourselves credit for. And getting that commonality comes from interaction, comes from communications. And you realize, well, wow, you know, I didn't know that we had this in common. I didn't know we had that in common, you know? And then maybe that layer of racial animus or perceptions breaks away, and you start looking at the individual as a human, you know? And again, it sounds simple, but it goes back to communications and that. And there's some people that play off of perceptions. You know, people in my race who think, you know, I'm real cool. You know, they play their perceptions that black folks all can dance and play ball, you know? There's a lot of uncoordinated black folks, just like there are white people, you know? But there are black folks that are playing that perception, or playing into the perception I'm a tough guy. And I've seen it in my previous position, corporate, and going to some of the city stores, and some of our white managers got played by some of our black employees, and that because they know that they didn't know how to deal with it, and that came from lack of interaction. So it cuts both ways, and how you break it down is by interaction and communication. So, anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to jump on. One thing what Mr. McClure said about his position in leadership and his influence, he is correct about that, and I appreciate his honesty in that. And with me knowing his honesty and what his vision is, it's my responsibility to get people on board. There's a lot of distrust out there a lot of times when it comes to interacting with African Americans and Caucasian people. If you're different, regardless of the race, there's always some sort of hesitancy, or you know, you're not really sure. So it was important for me to do my job in regards to saying, listen, you know, I work with the man, I talk with him, I know his vision, you know me, you know I'm not going to lead you to any kind of foolishness, so this is the way to go. If you want things to change within this institution or wherever it may be, it takes time, but you have to hit your wagon at something in order to get some things going. In regards to what Marvin said about biases, I remember being a supervisor in the juvenile center, and I used to wear shoes and slacks and button-down shirt and tie, and I can't count how many times I would have a case manager or therapist come to me and say, you know, before I got to know you, Mr. Collins, I used to be afraid of you. Now, here I am on the job. I got a lanyard on, with my face on there, I got slacks, and for some reason, due to my size, 6'3", bald head, goatee, dark complexion, 200, you know, none of your business pounds. So I get why people were hesitant by my presence. So instead of getting angry and wanting to protest or scream out racism too quick, you have to, like Mr. LaFleur said, you gotta make yourself subservient. You gotta take a back seat. Say, you know what, how can I change myself or change my appearance and not look so imposing? So I laugh a lot, crack a lot of jokes, smile, try to make myself smaller. I don't talk with my arms folded. I don't talk with my hands, because all that can be attributed to, you know, gestures or what have you that can be intimidating or put people off. And I know that. I mean, it may not be fair, so to speak, but what's the best way to get to know someone and break those barriers down? It's like Marcon said, it takes communication. And sometimes you find out you have more in common than you do the opposite. I got a colleague now in the prison. He and I didn't get along when we first met each other. I respected his expertise on the streets, because he didn't come up in corrections, but he came up on the streets doing other law enforcement. I came up in corrections. I thought I was the man. He thought he was the man. And those two egos were bashing heads like you couldn't imagine. And the director of the store came up with this bright idea to have a shared office. I thought it was a setup. I said, man, are you trying to get my pension taken away? I said, we're not going to last a week. And I was serious. But lo and behold, I got up there, and after we talked for the first literally the first week or so, kind of find out we had mutual friends, like same surroundings, same likes, like the same sports teams, and all that stuff went away. His doggedness in doing things was the same as mine, so he had that same work ethic, and I apologized to him. I said, you know what, I want to apologize for not being a better professional towards you, and looking at you personally, rather than ignorantly, in the sense of not knowing me, not knowing you, not taking the time to break down that barrier. But you got to be committed to it. It's like Guillermo Lopez said, it takes a bit of love and affection and want to love people, get to know people, and, you know, having that iron sharpens iron. I mean, his skill set helped me out, and how I was made up helped him out, so we just put it together. But I was embarrassed that it took that long for me to get it, because I wasn't brought up like that. I was brought up in a very diverse neighborhood. Marvin knows my parents. I'm talking about Lebanese, Syrian, Italian, Puerto Rican lived in my neighborhood, Jamaican. So I lived in like a melting pot of different backgrounds. So I was kind of ashamed of myself by not expressing myself the way I was raised, and not put my best foot forward. So if I can say that.
Thank you, and then I know we're out of time, but I want to turn to the audience and I'm going to ask you to turn to the person closest to you and think about an appreciation you can give to one of the panelists, right? Pick just one of them, something of what you've heard that touched you, that moved you, could say. But that is the art of appreciation. That is how it works. You have to push yourself to dig. We're good at attacking, but the art of appreciation. So just take a minute, turn to someone, think about, pick someone, make sure they all get it, and then we'll go here. And then I'm going to embarrass Caroline.
Sure. I would like to demonstrate my appreciation to Mr. and Mrs. Marcon. There are so many things.
It's enough already.
Just let me appreciate you a little bit. There are so many things they could do with their money. And there are so many places they could physically be right now, other than here, lending not just their fortune, but their good name to what's being accomplished here and what they want to do going forward into the future. And in an academic institution, and we know across the country, maybe not specifically here or at Lehigh, but our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are being attacked everywhere. They're trying to roll them back. They're trying to intimidate us. They're trying to get folks to believe that we're teaching third graders about CRT, and we will not give up, and because of you, we're going to be able to have a bulwark against that here, so I appreciate you.
I'll pick somebody.
I would just like to extend my appreciation to everyone sitting in this area, this room, who does not look like me. You folks don't know me from a can of paint. And to hear some of the things that you have spoken about and the attendance I can see in the young folks' eyes here, you didn't have to be here. You could have got up and walked out, and this guy's full of bull jive. I ain't trying to hear this, but you didn't do that. And that's impressive. I mean, not everybody's willing to sit down and listen to somebody just for a minute or two and see what their ills are, what they think, what they experienced. And that may not even affect you. So like the old saying of until people who are unaffected are just as outraged as people are, nothing's going to change. So I appreciate you folks sitting here, taking the time, listening, hosting us. Gear will allow me to be in here. It's much appreciated. So I want to say thank you.
Who wants to go first, or do you want me to pick somebody?
I'd like to say something. This is really important to Ruth and me. We've given a lot of thought. We could, as Mark mentioned, we could have put our money at a lot of different places, but this is something that we both feel really passionate about. And when you study these issues of justice, the injustice, moral injustice that we're facing, what you find out is that we as a society have been erecting barriers to justice forever. And I really believe if we have the power to erect the barriers, we have the power to remove them.
Thank you. Yes.
I appreciate you using the word bias, because Charlie's heard me say this. I think our vocabulary is way too limited, and so that's why we have people saying, you're a racist, because they don't have any other vocabulary. And I don't know who does this, but to define, separate bias, discrimination, racism, there's another word, I'm forgetting it. And we're not doing that. And I think it's important to get out to the general population, to get out to school kids. So that's one of my soapboxes.
I'm taking notes on what you're saying. Were you thinking of equity also? Is that the other word you're thinking of? You said bias, discrimination, racism.
I really wasn't. It'll come to me another time.
That's a good point. I have a friend of mine, but I'll be quick. This was when Mike Brown thing was going on in St. Louis. The young brother got shot and killed. And I had a lieutenant of mine at the time, who put on Facebook, he supported St. Louis police. So a friend of mine who happens to be African American called me and said, yo, DC, you gotta say something to so-and-so. Man, so-and-so's putting racist stuff on Facebook. I'm like, oh my goodness, man, what happened? What did he say? And the only thing he put on there was, I support St. Louis police. And I stopped and well, I do too. The good ones. The ones that follow the law and the order and things of that nature. And I just say that's to piggyback off what you said in regards to not enough words. Everything is not, can't go right to racism, or he's a racist, or she's a racist. Sometimes it's just not finding the right word, or being true to the matter at hand. And just because I support St. Louis police, does that mean that I support what those 4 or 5 officers did?
Not bad behavior.
Oh, exactly. So that's why I want to piggyback off this. That was a good point about the words.
I said prejudice. The equity came in to me way later. So, yeah.
Who wants to give their appreciation? Go ahead.
I
I certainly appreciate all the comments that were offered here. And in addition to being grateful for you sharing your time with us, I also want to offer some encouragement because leadership in any communities, whether the communities are smaller or larger, is so key today. And all of you sitting up there have positions of leadership and power. And to hear you talking about the way you wield your power and the way you stand in your roles in leadership is very encouraging. And I just want to offer my encouragement to you because I'm sure you understand how vital that is to our communities today. So, my thanks.
Thank you very much.
You know, terminology in semantics can be, and I've seen in a number of cases, and kind of it's been touched on here, it can be used as a weapon, you know? And I try to be mindful of that in my role in communicating with different groups or inside of one group. How the wrong word can trigger somebody, you know? And you may not be doing it consciously because there's sometimes there's things we say that are reactive, but it would trigger someone in a wrong way. So as a leader, I try to be conscious of what I say because of the perception that's going to come back, you know? And it may not be intentional, so I try to be very intentional in terms of what I say, because I think that's important.
I'd like to say something that Mr. Collins, as you were talking about, I really appreciate about you, and something that I hope for all of us in the future. So I deeply appreciate how you do such a difficult job with the integrity that you do. And that's not easy because you're, as you described, you're sometimes taking it from all sides.
Oh yeah.
And trying to maintain that steadiness that is required to be a Black man in this society. And what I hope is that through this work, that there will be more embodied experiences where Black and brown folks don't feel like they have to make themselves smaller. You can show up as you and be seen. That's what I hope.
Well, I appreciate that. And I didn't get a chance to finish my story about the accusation, but that gentleman that contacted me, he and I haven't spoken since. And he actually called me a sellout, and he was upset at the fact that I didn't co-sign on the notion that he thought that particular staff member at the time was racist because they supported the police. I work in law enforcement myself. I work very close correspondence with the DA's office and detectives. So listen, I know there's false arrests and police brutality. I know that. I've seen it when I was young coming up. Been a part of that a little bit coming up. I want to be a part of a mantra that wants to bring about change. One way you bring about change, you gotta have a seat at the table. If you're not at the table, if you're outside woofing or you're outside making a couple of comments and you leave, then you're not a part of the solution. You're a part of the problem. We need people who will be able to step in and step up and pass that baton back after the Lamont McClures will move forward, or the Guillermo Lopez's, or the Marvin Boyers, or the David Collinses. Because I was going to retire in August, and it's just God's grace that he stepped in and said, I got an offer. I said, you know what, as long as Lamont's at the helm, and this is a true story, as long as Lamont's there and Director Castor's there, I'm the man. Because I didn't feel like starting under a new regime. I know who I know, people know me, they know how I work, how I operate, and you can just take that football and just keep running down the field. So I appreciate you, but it's tough. But I'm here for the long haul, and you know, as long as the groundhog's not my mailman, I'll be there.
And let's face it, making yourself smaller, trying to make yourself, we're trying to make yourself bigger, hurts.
Yeah.
It does.
Over time, it causes
It does.
problems.
It does.
Well, I thank you, everyone, and I'll leave you with this. We must be responsible for the impact that our words have.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't matter what your intent is. What matters is the impact that they have.
Absolutely.
Can I close with?
Well, I just want to embarrass Carolina real quick.
Okay, that's what I was going to close it out anymore.
Well, so, you know, as a Latina sister,
Yes.
I just love how safe I feel when you walk in. I think that's all I had to say to make her red. Okay.
I'm going to do a quick plug. I'm loud. I'm going to do a quick plug. Do I need this? Okay. I want to do a quick plug for the rest of the conference, but first I want to start by just highlighting the revolutionary acts of love that have already happened and that happened in this moment that I am so grateful to be a part of. You know, yesterday we had public safety show up and make us feel safer, right? LUPD showed up with therapy dogs and no guns. For a conversation, we were having a conversation about how to defeat the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, and anybody could have shown up with guns. It could have been a dangerous conversation, but it was a conversation that public safety stayed with us in, right? And we had, how many of you have ever been at a panel made up of BIPOC folks where BIPOC men were asked, what do you think about love? And how can we nurture you as a community? There are revolutionary things happening here that I hope can keep bringing more and more people in on. Because as you said, it is, well, actually as you have all said in different ways, that what real leadership is navigating those complexities in a way that allows us to build trust together. And then as we're going through, we get to a place where we built a little bit of trust. And thank you, Guillermo, for bringing this idea to life here today. We have to combat together and help each other heal from the wounds that were caused from the battle we just went through, getting to the trust that we built. And so I want to thank you all for being here today and invite you to tomorrow's Souls of Anti-Racist Breakfast at 10 a.m. It's in the Health Sciences and Technology building, the new building on Lehigh's campus, top floor forum room. It is open. We prefer you register, but you know what? If we run out of food, I'll go get more.
What kind of food you have?
French toast, scrambled eggs. It's a hot breakfast. It's not continental, but we have those bits too. We have bagels and everything. So a good breakfast, and I think. As much as the food will feed us, I think it's going to be Rabbi Levy and Ray Levy and Tamara Redfern, and perhaps, if Antonia can make the time, also Antonia Ellison, who will be leading us in a conversation about how we can take care of our spiritual well-being in the struggle for freedom. We've got a sort of yoga, we've got a session from 5 to 7 Monday evening on restorative justice. We'll have members of the International Institute for Restorative Practices. Dr. Jennifer Swan, the Lehigh ombudsperson, will be leading that conversation. We also have a dinner celebration for the fellows Tuesday night, and that is also open to everyone. So if you want to come and meet the fellows, talk about those projects, get other people excited about new projects. This is the Marcon Institute operates on flattened hierarchies. So, Mr. Collins, you bring me an idea and you say, hey, you might find a student who might be interested in working on this? Yes, the answer for me is yes, I will do that. Lamont, same for you. I'm so impressed by your, I have learned so much, and I'm so impressed with the way that you have made a commitment to use your privilege, where you said, I wrote it down, I'm going to use my power for the folks, all the folks. Yes. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I hope you'll join me Wednesday. We're celebrating International Women's Day. Come down for children's story time, writing group, and cat cafe. So we got a lot going on, and if you have ideas for next year, bring them to me, because I want this circle to grow.
Thank you, everyone.